And Disney decided to hire the most insufferable girl boss narcissist that exists on Earth, who hates Snow White.
It has proven to be Disney's worst investment ever in the history of Disney investments. I mean, they've gone through various scandals with this girl.
If I'm Bob Iger, you know what we're doing? Emergency meeting. We're putting Snow White on hold for 2 years, and guess what?
Smart.
Pay her a couple $1,000,000, go away. We're going to bring another person to play this role.
But because she has this underlying anger and hatred in her that always has to take it like one step too far.
You know, other movie companies are going to look at her and they're going to say box office poison. And a lot of this is due to her behavior leading up to the film's release.
They're leaning in.
Or what?
They're leaning into woke. Hardcore.
They're petrified
Yeah.
of some kind of backlash. I mean, you see with Disney now. I mean, Disney, one of the most gay-friendly companies.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
I'm honored.
Rachel Zegler's rise to fame has taken a wild nosedive, especially after Disney's chaotic Snow White remake finally hit theaters. Rumors exploded online that she was desperately asking for financial help after the movie flopped hard. The chaos didn't start there. Drama had already been brewing behind the scenes with whispers of tension between Zegler and her co-star Gal Gadot. But once the film premiered, things spiraled out of control. Insiders say Zegler was left scrambling.
It's wrong and backwards, and it's not 1937, whatever. That was like her initial spree, and everyone was like, okay, do you want to be Snow White, or do you hate Snow White? Do you want to destroy Snow White?
Trying to gather funds for future projects, while the internet roasted the film's failure. What was meant to be a bold new take on a classic fairy tale turned into a disaster, packed with fights, last-minute cancellations, and a wave of brutal backlash. As whispers spread about Zegler's supposed money troubles, industry insiders were left stunned. How did a project that once seemed so full of promise crash and burn so fast? From the moment Rachel Zegler was announced as the new Snow White,
Trump wins, and Rachel decides to go on really just a psychopathic, demented rant.
Excitement flooded social media and Hollywood circles alike after her early successes. Many saw her as a rising force, someone ready to breathe new life into a beloved Disney legacy while keeping it fresh for a modern audience. Paired with Gal Gadot, famous for portraying strong, empowering women, it all looked like a match made in movie magic. But things took a turn. As filming dragged on, the signs of trouble became impossible to ignore.
Please?
For which movie?
Behind the scenes, something wasn't right. Skipped eye contact, icy silences, creative clashes, and rising tension over how scenes should play out. People on set began to notice the mood shift, and fast. Sources claimed these quiet conflicts snowballed into fiery arguments that threw the whole production into chaos. What started as a dream team quickly became a behind-the-scenes nightmare. What was supposed to be a simple promotional tour quickly turned into a powder keg of tension.
No, I've been getting a lot of questions about, how do I feel?
It wasn't just Zegler and Gadot at odds anymore. It was clear that even the rest of the production team was feeling the heat. Rumors spread like wildfire that Zegler's vision of the film, one she repeatedly called a moral or educational experience, was a far cry from what fans were expecting. Fans who were hoping for a fun, nostalgic retelling of the classic fairy tale instead found themselves hit with heavy-handed commentary that didn't quite match their expectations.
The reality is she's just not stable.
Meanwhile, Gadot's involvement only stirred more controversy. Her outspoken global views ignited strong reactions whenever those opinions leaked into discussions about the movie. The atmosphere became charged, combative, and uncomfortable, setting the stage for what would become a PR disaster no one saw coming. The tension was building, and it was only a matter of time before everything blew up. Behind the scenes, Disney execs were on edge, and for good reason.
I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have.
They had hoped Snow White would be a straightforward hit, just like their other live-action remakes. But instead, the film became a perfect storm of mismatched ideals and clashing egos. Each time Rachel Zegler slammed the original story as outdated and in need of a modern, moral overhaul, loyal fans of the 1937 classic grew more and more disillusioned. On social media, the battle lines were drawn. Supporters of Zegler's vision.
So yeah,
my agent would have punched me in the face if I was up there saying some stupid what an investment.
Those praising her desire to inject fresh lessons into the tale clashed head-on with hardcore purists who believed some things were better left untouched. But the drama didn't stop there. Meanwhile, Gadot, true to her nature, continued to champion global causes, drawing support from her dedicated fan base, but also alienating another group of viewers who just wanted a lighthearted, nostalgic romp. The whole situation was a PR nightmare, and Disney was stuck in the middle of it all.
Great. Okay? Fucking great. I'm honored. I don't know why I sound so angry right now. I'm honored.
To make matters even worse, rumors spread like wildfire that Zegler had purposely skipped a major event designed to honor Gadot, something that many saw as a blatant signal of growing tension between the two. The ceremony, which was meant to showcase unity and shut down rumors of friction, turned into a disaster when Zegler was nowhere to be seen. When asked about her absence, Zegler later claimed she felt uneasy with some of the political messages being pushed at the event and couldn't, in good conscience.
So with Snow White, let's go through this, right? There's no prince. Woman doesn't need a prince.
Oh, Lord.
Really? Okay, good luck
up.
back then.
Support what was being presented, but the fallout was swift and brutal. To many, it looked like a slap in the face to Gadot, while others defended Zegler, seeing it as a stand for personal integrity. No matter how you spun it, though, the consequences were severe. Disney had hoped the two would make a public show of solidarity, squashing all rumors of behind-the-scenes drama, but that didn't happen. Instead, it only fueled the fire by skipping the event.
Doesn't need a prince to save her, and not surrounded by 7 weird people. Oh, okay, just CGI fictional goblins, I guess.
Rachel Zegler only fueled the fire, solidifying the growing belief that something was seriously wrong behind the scenes. Things took a darker turn when interviews following the ceremony revealed that neither actress seemed eager to compliment the other or even pretend there was any camaraderie between them. Journalists at promotional shoots were taken aback by the frequent, tense pauses. Filming would come to a halt because the actresses couldn't even stand next to each other without tension boiling over.
And I get it, there's a difference between spoiling and whatever, but to go out and badmouth everybody and talk smack about, older movies in the same franchise, the canon story, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I feel like they would have had better control over that.
On at least one occasion, witnesses claimed Zegler walked off set after Gadot made a seemingly offhand remark, refusing to continue until the air cleared. The drama was impossible to ignore, and as details of these heated moments leaked, it only damaged the film's reputation even more. Fans and critics alike started asking, could a movie that was falling apart at the seams behind the scenes really pull audiences in? Would anyone want to watch a production so marred by conflict?
That said, our primary purpose is to entertain, and where we can entertain responsibly, obviously we try to do that. We try to have a positive impact on the world, but the first thing we need to do is entertain.
The doubts grew by the day. Industry veterans warned that when the negativity surrounding a film is this widespread, it can be impossible to recover, no matter how stunning the visuals or how bold the updates might be. And they were right. Early box office numbers were lukewarm, with even the most devoted Disney fans hesitating to show up, clearly fatigued by the ongoing controversies that overshadowed the film. As the production continued to unravel, the costs skyrocketed.
Jonah Platt, whose father helped produce the latest Snow White film, had some very harsh words for star Rachel Zegler.
For context, Variety wrote a report recently titled Inside Disney's Snow White Fiasco, Death Threats, Beefed Up Security, and a Social Media Guru for Rachel Zegler.
Reshoots became essential to fix scenes where the chemistry between Zegler and Gadot was clearly lacking. Editors found themselves piecing together a coherent story from fragmented footage, often disrupted by behind-the-scenes clashes. With the timeline stretching longer and longer, Disney was forced to cut back on marketing in order to funnel more resources into salvaging the film, making what should have been a simple release into a major financial headache. The tension between the leads didn't stop at the set.
And then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. The progressives always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
It bled into the editing room. Insiders claimed entire emotional arcs had to be patched together from separate shots, where Zegler and Gadot were never even in the same frame. Meanwhile, canceled press events piled on the drama. The biggest setback, the missed opportunity for Zegler and Gadot to appear together on major talk shows. Publicists had hoped a few carefully planned joint appearances would squash the rumors of bad blood, but with the palpable hostility between them.
So even though woke in some sense feels like it's dead, it still has to run its course through the system. The ghosts have to get out of the machine in essence.
The idea of them sitting side by side, smiling for the cameras and chatting about their time on set felt downright laughable. Instead, their schedules were quickly reshuffled for solo interviews. But even those were scaled back, with their teams on high alert, terrified that one wrong word might spark a new media frenzy. As expected, the film's promotional momentum took a nosedive, with the public more focused on the escalating feud than the actual movie.
This girl took the money and then decided that she wanted to go out there and, you know what, I'm going to take my stand. Well, you should have made that stand before you took the money to promote a film, because that's not in line with your job description.
Right.
The constant buzz about the drama soon started to affect Rachel Zegler's career prospects. Once hailed as a breakout star with a bright future, she was now being seen by some as a risky gamble. Her willingness to skip major events and clash with colleagues over political differences made producers uneasy. Meanwhile, Gal Gadot wasn't immune to the fallout either. Her outspoken political views sparked their own wave of criticism.
I think this is their policies coming back to bite them. They went woke.
Yeah.
She went out and said stuff woke that was going to hurt the film. They couldn't come out and go against her, because then you're going after somebody for saying what you say you believe.
But with her long-established career and loyal fan base, Gal Gadot had some leeway. For Rachel Zegler, still relatively new to the top tier of Hollywood, the reputational damage hit hard, and at a much more vulnerable point in her career. When controversies keep piling up, casting directors tend to play it safe. And that's exactly what started happening with Rachel Zegler. The rumor mill was on overdrive, suggesting she might be facing serious financial struggles.
But at the same time, I think going forward, they're going to be like, hey, shut up.
Yeah.
Tight-lipped. Otherwise, guess what? We're clawing back some money.
Yeah. This would have been a lot better if they, had a strong male along with her, a prince, if it wasn't about socialism.
With fewer job offers on the horizon and Snow White set to bomb at the box office, whispers began circulating that she was desperately seeking funds, even trying to secure deals from powerful industry players. Some of the juicier rumors claimed she was practically begging for money from Disney execs or wealthy investors to keep her career on track. Even more shocking, some speculated that Rachel Zegler was wrestling with the fallout of starring in a high-profile failure, something that could wreck her future earnings and career prospects.
But the lead actresses, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot, are making it very, very difficult for me to believe that there is anything redeeming about this project whatsoever.
While it was tough to confirm the truth behind these claims, they sparked wild speculation everywhere. Fans and critics alike were left asking, how could a rising star, once hailed as a breath of fresh air, end up in such a dire situation? The drama kicked off bigger debates. Was Hollywood's cutthroat culture to blame, or had Rachel Zegler's outspoken views ultimately led her down this rocky path? Online debates raged on.
The fact that it's about the humanity and it's about nature as well, and it's a beautiful story about an amazing girl who wants to find the true self of hers.
Was Rachel Zegler deserving of sympathy, or had she simply pushed away the major players in Disney's world with her bold opinions and absences at key events? The division was clear, and the arguments only grew more heated. Meanwhile, Gal Gadot was vocal about her own frustrations. Sources claimed she was furious that her special event, meant to celebrate humanitarian efforts and political activism, had turned into a disaster, partly because Zegler's noticeable absence stole the spotlight.
She's now bragging about the success of Snow White, which is a movie that's going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars, And mainly because of her, and because nobody wanted to support her.
Instead of creating a sense of unity, the event only underscored the growing divide between the two actresses. Gadot reportedly vented that the constant drama surrounding Snow White had completely overshadowed what was supposed to be a magical, unforgettable cinematic moment. Despite the turmoil, Gal Gadot kept a calm and collected image in public, carefully avoiding any direct mention of Rachel Zegler. She insisted that the film's creative elements should be the focus.
One of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
But reporters, hungry for a scandal, continually steered the conversation back to the rumored rift between the two actresses, leaving little room to discuss the movie itself. As the negative headlines mounted, Disney reevaluated its approach. Early marketing had promised an inclusive, progressive reimagining of Snow White, one that would strike a chord with modern audiences, while preserving the charm of the classic fairy tale.
Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once, and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like. Was terrified of it. Never revisited Snow White again.
But once the drama hit the public eye, fans began scrutinizing every new clip for signs of underlying tension between the stars. What had started as excitement for a fresh take on Snow White with a talented Latina actress in the lead quickly soured into skepticism over the messy dynamics overshadowing the production. Soon, harsh box office predictions started flooding in. Market experts claimed that despite Disney's massive budget and brand recognition, the film wasn't generating much buzz.
And if she hadn't have opened her mouth, I think that this movie might have done well. They might have just been able to ride on the hopium of the movie and some well-cut trailers, and people would have paid to go see it, and then it would have fallen off when people knew it was garbage.
Families who typically embraced Disney's updated classics felt turned off by the growing controversies and the sense of forced moralizing. Fans of the 1937 original voiced their displeasure, arguing that this version strayed too far from what made Snow White so beloved. Even casual viewers, who might have been enticed by the stunning visuals, were turned off by the never-ending behind-the-scenes drama. The film's future looked increasingly grim.
It just takes a beloved movie and makes it much more boring and much less realistic. The movie is really, really bad.
In the chaos that followed, even more rumors about Rachel Zegler's alleged attempts to secure funding began to swirl. It was said that her team had reached out to several streaming services and production companies, desperately trying to land new roles or financial backing. The uncertainty surrounding Snow White's box office performance seemed to push her representatives into overdrive, desperately trying to keep her relevant in the industry. Some critics saw this as a reflection of Hollywood's harsh reality.
And everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
One day you're on top, and the next, your career could plummet after one bad decision or a single damaging rumor. As Rachel Zegler's involvement in Snow White continued to generate controversy, major studios started to get wary about associating with her. Although she didn't publicly confirm any financial struggles, in the few interviews she gave, Rachel Zegler mostly stuck to defending her vision for the film. She insisted that it was necessary to update the original story's outdated ideas.
And the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
Snow White is running for president.
I'm launching my campaign.
And give it a more modern perspective. She also highlighted the importance of strong female characters who were more than just damsels in distress. Some applauded her for taking a bold, progressive stance, celebrating the evolution of a classic, but others found her rhetoric off-putting, feeling that her comments came across as self-righteous. The more she championed the film's supposed moral lessons, the more some fans felt like they were being lectured instead of entertained.
This woman is extraordinarily woke, as everyone is in Hollywood, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
Rachel Zegler never directly acknowledged the swirling rumors about seeking financial help, but the fact that people even entertained the idea highlighted the dramatic shift in her public persona. Gal Gadot, on the other hand, handled the relentless controversy with more subtlety. Yet, when the two actresses did appear at the same public events, an increasingly rare occurrence after the film's release, the tension was palpable. Viewers could easily read the discomfort in their rigid postures and forced smiles. Their body language barely matched.
Yeah, because there's nothing more effective than 19-year-olds educating the rest of the voting public while yelling, "Okay, boomer."
Media speculation about a possible reconciliation quickly died down. Inevitably, whenever interviews happened, the topic of their rumored feud dominated the conversation, completely overshadowing any talks about the film's updates or its creative direction. In response, promotional material for Snow White underwent multiple last-minute changes. What had once emphasized the film's progressive updates now seemed toned down, perhaps to avoid reigniting debates.
Disney's Bob Iger says their mission is to entertain, not send messaging as Snow White sales compete for worst performing live-action Disney adaptation ever.
Over the lack of chemistry between the two stars. Even in post-production, editors reportedly scrambled to fix scenes in an attempt to hide the palpable tension. Sources claimed that entire emotional arcs were reworked or even deleted to cover up the conflict. In the end, creating a believable connection on screen proved nearly impossible, especially considering that genuine rapport never seemed to have existed between the two actresses. During filming, as the production dragged on, crew members and minor cast members began sharing behind-the-scenes stories of what had actually been going on during filming. Initially, the set had buzzed with excitement, with everyone eager to put a fresh spin on a beloved classic. But as time went on, that energy quickly soured. Creative disagreements and personal clashes caused frequent delays, grinding the workday to a halt. At times, tensions completely unrelated to the film itself spilled over, dampening the morale of the production team.
Now, Gal Gadot not only didn't want to be seen with Rachel and even exchange some words with Zegler, Gal reportedly told Zegler herself that she never wants to be seen with Zegler again on live television.
Production assistants and other crew members were left to watch hours of precious time slip away, all because of clashing egos rather than focusing on getting the scenes right. Disney executives scrambled to address the chaos, arranging private meetings in hopes of getting Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot to work through their issues without further stalling production. But despite these efforts, the bad blood lingered. The studio also tried to enforce tighter control over public statements, attempting to steer the conversation back to the film's plot and creative vision rather than the mounting personal or political drama. But by then, social media was already ablaze with rumors, and fans were poring over every small gesture for signs of animosity. The public narrative had taken hold, and changing the course of that narrative seemed impossible. The possibility that Rachel Zegler might be seeking financial help after the Snow White debacle quickly caught the eye of the tabloids.
And I think Snow White has become the pinnacle of this. This is going to go down in history as an asterisk next to Rachel Zegler's name, Rachel Zegler.
Some outlets painted it as a desperate move, from an actress fearing the worst if the film flopped, while others offered a more sympathetic take, suggesting that a star in her position was simply navigating the ruthless volatility of Hollywood, a search for job security in a cutthroat industry. No matter the spin, the rumors of Zegler's financial pleas only fed into the larger narrative of a star on the brink of a collapse, one who, despite her promising rise, now found herself teetering on the edge. Disney had pulled off last-minute saves for troubled projects in the past, usually with a savvy marketing blitz. But instead, more bombshells, offhand comments, and leaks from insiders continued to surface, reinforcing a toxic, inescapable atmosphere. In a final desperate move, Disney arranged a series of promotional appearances, but crucially, without pairing the two leads together. Any potential synergy had long since vanished. Even if the movie boasted stunning visuals.
Well, like me, who watched Disney princess movies when the world was okay, and it was acceptable for us to dream about being a princess as a woman and meeting a handsome prince. But oh no, these big bad feminists now are telling us that's ridiculous. How dare you want to meet a handsome prince?
And a fresh take The buzz around the real-life drama overshadowed any artistic merits. The soap opera had already stolen the show. The dismal opening weekend projections seemed to confirm the worst-case scenario. While a small bump in attendance might come from sheer curiosity, it wasn't enough to counteract the overwhelming tide of negative press. Disney executives braced for impact, already planning a swift exit from theaters to move the film onto digital platforms and minimize their losses. Some held out hope that curiosity would push the box office numbers just high enough to prevent Snow White from being a total disaster. But many skeptics were convinced it would soon become another one of the studio's most infamous flops. The clock was ticking, and the damage appeared irreversible. Amid the chaos, there was no sign of reconciliation between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. If anything, their animosity only grew deeper.
I don't really care about that. What I care about is how she hated the story because it needed to be wokeified, and she hated the fact that there was going to be a Prince Charming of some sort, and they needed to update it.
Zegler supporters lashed out at Gadot for pushing her political agenda at the expense of the film's progressive message, while Gadot's fans accused Zegler of disrespecting the iconic 1937 classic and alienating Disney's loyal fan base. On social media, the feud exploded, drowning out any attempts to refocus attention on the movie itself. For Rachel Zegler, her efforts to highlight the film's modern, educational themes were constantly overshadowed by speculation about her financial troubles. Though interviews avoided direct confrontation, journalists couldn't help but probe. Had she really sought financial support from industry bigwigs? Or was it just gossip run wild? Her team stuck to a diplomatic line, emphasizing her dedication to meaningful, progressive storytelling. But the rumors about her finances kept buzzing, becoming a key part of the ongoing meltdown narrative that drowned out any conversation about the film's merits. Gal Gadot, while caught up in the storm, remained calm in her public statements.
Rachel Zegler made it so hateable that you really sabotaged and took hundreds of millions of dollars from the studio. I don't know how anyone would ever want to go into business with her ever.
Often steering the conversation to her charitable work or the behind-the-scenes efforts of Snow White. However, avoiding the topic of her co-star grew increasingly difficult. Every new interview inevitably circled back to the feud, ensuring that for the public, the real story was about the drama off-screen, not the magical reimagining of the fairy tale.
Theaters are, of course, entirely empty. Do you understand that having people buy tickets is an important part of success in your industry? Rachel Zegler, I guess, didn't get the memo.
If you found this breakdown fascinating, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into the latest industry dramas, and ring the bell so you never miss a moment of the action. This is Sasha Spills, signing off. I'll catch you in the next video.